Aloha, I'm Carolyn Tanaka, and welcome to Live at the Legislature, where every week I'll be sitting down with members of the House of Representatives to talk about issues, concerns, legislation, and good gossip moving through the halls of the state capitol. Joining me this morning is Representative Todd. He represents District 2 from the big and beautiful Hawaii Island. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You know, before we get into legislation, concerns, issues, and all that kind of stuff, I want to talk a little bit about you. I want to get to know a little bit about Chris Todd. You are the second youngest member in the House of Representatives. And tell us a little bit about what you do and where you come from.
Sure. So I'm born and raised in Hilo. But third or fourth generation in Hilo specifically. And, I feel like, with my age or, my background, I used to manage a fish market. I'm a football coach. That's kind of a unique set of circumstances. And it gives me maybe a different perspective on, current state government and affairs. So I'm hoping that by bringing that maybe that gives us a broader perspective, and I can add some of that level of expertise to those specific areas to what we're doing now.
Well, I know you've got a beautiful baby girl, and you've been serving here since 2017. So tell me, what are the issues, concerns for the people in your district?
Yeah, and I think in a way, having my daughter who's 20 months old, her name's Ruby, having her, kind of changes my perspective a little bit. And I see how difficult it is raising children in Hawaii. And that's with how much help me and my wife have. That's with both of my parents being retired and her parents being retired, and them being able to help out, while I'm up here or while my wife is at work. She's a teacher. So seeing how difficult it is for us to make that work in the best possible circumstances, I think that's really been a, kind of an eye-opener in terms of what families are currently going through. And, and I think in my experience as a football coach, I deal with kids who are, oftentimes from the toughest backgrounds. And seeing, kind of some of those scars that they bring with them by the time they're in high school, I'm really hoping that, whether it's through the majority package or various things pushing through the legislature, that we can really help to address some of that difficulty that families are currently going through.
Well, okay, since you started talking about that, I think it's very interesting. You are the face of Hawaii's growing young families who, you probably have friends who have been having a difficult time here. So let's talk a little bit about the joint package. And we should say the joint package, it's a series of bills that are economic package that's designed to alleviate the cost of living issues. So I know you sit on the Finance Committee, one of the more powerful committees. Let's take a look at that from that perspective. Do you think this package will be too costly or anything?
Oh, no, not at all. I think one of the things that I've learned in my very limited time here, because I am relatively new, is that there's money if we want there to be money. We do have a lot of flexibility. We're not at a breaking point fiscally where we have to turn off the money faucet or anything like that. So I think as long as we're creative in how we're generating that revenue and ensuring that that's not a burden placed on local families that are currently struggling to make ends meet, I do think there's a real opportunity to shift the way we tax people, shift the way we fund programs and roll out programs to really do a lot more for the working family than we are currently doing. So I think this is a real opportunity to take a step forward in that direction.
As we know, this package is made up of four bills, but they all work in unison to address the affordability issue here. There's been a lot of discussion, though, on individual bills.
Sure.
And so let's talk about one, the minimum wage bill, where there has been some pushback. That bill would raise the minimum wage to $13 by the year 2024. There's been some pushback on that. Some people want it higher. What do you say to people who want that?
Sure, and I understand that. And even within our caucus and within the building, you have a variety of opinions. There are people who would probably prefer no increase in the minimum wage, and people would prefer all the way up to $17. And the people on the outside need to understand, and I understand that that's that sounds like I'm an insider, and I don't want it to sound like that's the case. But just being realistic, we have to find a way to pull all of these unique opinions together and form something that is the best possible legislation. So while we may have individual members who'd like a higher minimum wage or a lower minimum wage, this seems to be the vehicle that has the best chance of advancing. And I don't want things to happen like last year, where we have minimum wage legislation on the table that I feel can be really beneficial, but we can't find that magic dollar amount, and so things fall to the side. So I'm hoping that whether it's $13 or if over the course of the legislature that number shifts a little bit, I'm hoping that we can actually pass something that's going to put more money into the hands of everyday working people.
There's another issue, another pillar in that economic package, and it has to do with school facilities, which is something that I think especially impacts schools on the Big Island. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot of recognition, even on the Big Island or even within Hilo. But there was recently a statewide school facility survey compiled and released to the DOE, and it's publicly available. Hilo has the worst school infrastructure in the state. And part of it is that our schools are so old. I went to Kaumana Elementary, Hilo Intermediate, Hilo High School. All three of those schools are 100 years old. So part of it is that this initial construction was done during a plantation era where our standards for construction and how much space is required to learn were much lower than what is the modern standard and what has been shown to lead to better educational outcomes. So in investing in a school facilities agency and hopefully kind of churning this process a little bit quicker, because right now it's very stagnant, very difficult to get money moving. Hopefully we can really start to address that problem statewide, but also in East Hawaii specifically, where I don't think people have a recognition of just how poor our facilities currently are relative to the rest of the country and even the rest of the state at the moment.
Well, so and this bill would take the responsibilities of school construction out of the DOE.
Yes.
And so and set up a separate agency, and you believe that would be the most efficient way to go?
I believe so. And I think part of it is the DOE is already the largest school district in the country in terms of its responsibilities and its scope. And it can already feel very top-heavy and bureaucratic. And that's not necessarily the fault of the people who are there. It's just the nature of the DOE's construction right now. So I'm hoping that in freeing that up, that we have a smoother, more transparent, but also just a more rapid process in addressing these issues.
Well, you know what? We've got 20 seconds left. So this time has gone by very quickly. We weren't able to talk about a lot of the stuff that, the legislation you've introduced, Banyan Drive, which is a big issue for the Hilo area. But if you promise to come back, we'll do that.
That sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Representative, for joining us this morning.
You.
And thank you to all of you. We will see you next week, Tuesday. Aloha.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.